If there's one thing you can count on for a Legend of Zelda boss to feature, it's a giant eye that also acts as a major weak spot. It's a trope as old as time, and yet I can't help thinking, what if those eldritch abominations and dungeon horrors just, I don't know, wore a pair of glasses? Instant protection from Link's incessant arrow spam, plus with that perfect eyesight, they'd be able to parry that subscribe button to help my channel reach 50,000 subscribers because over 70% of the viewers aren't subscribed. And they'd look snazzy in their new shades to boot. I'm Billy S, and today you're joining me as we talk about 7 Zelda bosses who should have gone to Specsavers. It's a little British joke for you UK people in the chat. We're going to go chronologically, starting off with the original Gohma from the Legend of Zelda NES. Now, Gohma has appeared throughout the series, with so many different iterations to choose from, which is why I'm going to go back to where it all started for today's video. You had 2 different variations of Gohma, red and blue, with the red Gohma dying in 1 hit, and the blue Gohma dying in 3. You have to shoot the big bulbous eye with an arrow to deal damage, avoiding fireballs, and timing your shot so it doesn't strike when the eye is shut. It's a very simple fight, whether you're encountering it as the level 6 boss or the level 8 mini-boss, and likely created this eye weak point trope we've seen in the series since. But Gohma is very archaic, choosing to open and close its eye throughout the fight when, if it just went to Specsavers, it could get a pair of glasses so it doesn't have to keep shutting its eye all the time. In fact, with that protection, I think Gohma easily bodies Link, though there's no way to prove that fact. Gohma spends the rest of the series evolving into bigger, badder forms to fight the hero, when if they just put on a pair of glasses, they wouldn't have needed to evolve in the first place. Next up, we jump over to A Link to the Past, and boy do we have multiple bosses who require protective lenses. Cold Stare in the Ice Palace could have used a monocle that could withstand the freezing temperatures of its ice. Argus, despite having protective children floating around it at all times, could have also used protection in the form of a solid bit of glass. But for me, it's Vitreous in Misery Maya who lands on today's list. Because Vitreous isn't just a singular eyeball, it's a whole host of them. Vitreous will launch the smaller eyeballs at Link, while the larger eyeball fires electricity throughout the room, and once the smaller eyes are defeated, the bigger one will begin to hop towards Link in an attempt to crush him. Now obviously the problem is that getting glasses for all those eyeballs is going to be tough. There are 14 in total, but surely there's gotta be a family plan in place, right? You own a giant swampy temple, you can afford to drop a couple rupees into getting your kids protection so the blonde twink of courage doesn't kill him. Use the same material for the frames of those glasses that they made Nokia bricks out of in the 2000s, and Link will literally never be able to smash them. What a different world we'd be in if Vitreous had decent eye care. Instead, he's getting poked by the equivalent of a very angry toothpick, and oh god, that must hurt. This is the last of the 2D bosses on today's list, as we head over to Link's Awakening. On the island of Koholint, the Nightmares have 0 excuses here. They invaded the Windfish's dream to take it over, and thus they should have been able to create whatever they wanted. That includes a pair of glasses. And we're taking this to upper management as I put Dethl on trial, the final nightmare deep within the Windfish's egg. His final form is a floating eye surrounded by 2 rotating stalks, which act as a deterrent to keep the player away. You have to jump over the arms with the Roc's Feather, and attack him when his eye opens, dealing damage with a well-timed shot from the bow. Now, like Gohma, a pair of glasses would have certainly done him some good in stopping the bow shots, but in the original Game Boy release, Dethl had an even deadlier weakness, the boomerang. Just 1 hit from the boomerang would instantly win the fight for the player. You got this as a reward for completing the trading sequence quest, and it was a great way to give players that feeling of power in those last moments before the credits. The remake on Switch changed this, making it so the boomerang does regular damage alongside the magic rod, taking 20 hits to kill, while the bow only takes 10. So he arguably doesn't need as much of a set of specs in the remake, but his original form could have avoided a simple instant kill with a pair of glasses. It's just egregious for Dethl because again, having complete power over the Windfish's dream meant he could have created a Specsavers to survive his weakness, but he chose not to in his hubris and paid the ultimate price when Link rocked up with an Australian children's toy. Ah, dang it looks like I need glasses. I transitioned to the message about parrying that subscribe button to stay up to date on all my future videos as I'm trying to reach 50,000 subscribers on the channel and over 70% of you aren't subscribed. I'm so silly. Let me just pop on my pair of glasses and there's the number 4 transition. Taking the jump to 3D, I wanted to give Ocarina of Time a spot. Now, we've already covered a Gohma variant, so I'm not going to beat the same horse twice. Even she should have learned already. Instead, let's talk with a prisoner who was sealed away for so long that they definitely had time to think about getting a pair of specs. And that is Bongo Bongo. Resident of the horrifying Shadow Temple, though he originally breaks out from the bottom of the well in Kakariko. In the time it took for him to go from there to his boss arena in the dungeon, he could have nicked some eyewear from the locals. Instead, he awaits on his giant bongo drum, bouncing Link up and down in a sea of poison. You first have to fire arrows at his hands, stunning the pair of them so that the boss is forced to attack you directly. Then, equip the Lens of Truth, which allows you to perceive Bongo Bongo, where his giant eye will open and he'll attempt to charge you. Simply pierce his eye with a well-timed shot, and he stuns, repeating the process multiple times until the boss is down. Bongo Bongo made one crucial mistake here though, assuming that other people could not see him. Thus, he was like, I don't need glasses because nobody can see I need glasses, so why should I get them? In his hubris, assuming nobody cared, he left himself open to the clear weakness of the Lens of Truth and an arrow to the face. With all the mechanical torture devices in the Shadow Temple, forgive me for assuming that perhaps they could fashion a working pair of glasses for an eldritch horror hell-bent on keeping Impa trapped. It'd also help with his flourishing music career, as once the eyesight goes, the ability to play gets tougher without that muscle memory. But no, Bongo Bongo bongoed his last bongo by bongoing his eyes into Bongoblivion. Now we have a bit of a crossover, because our next entry combines Nintendo's love of big floating faces with big floating hands. Gohdan from The Wind Waker is the guardian of the Tower of the Gods, and he has a whopping 4 eyes to deal with. That's 2 more than a normal person and 3 more than a majority of the bosses in this video. 2 of them are on his hands, which I don't think we can get glasses for, I'm afraid. He likes to use them to clap Link and push him around, with you needing to shoot the hand eyes to deactivate his fists, allowing you to focus on the face. There, Gohdan opens his 2 red eyes, which you then have to shoot with arrows to knock the boss to the ground, which then allows you to place a bomb in his mouth and do major damage. An unavoidable loss on part of the Great Arbiter, except that isn't the case. Gohdan was created by the ancient Hylians, the last trial of the gods before you're able to enter Hyrule, so why didn't Gohdan's creators give him a sick pair of shades that are made of the same material as the rest of his body? This would protect his eyes and force Link to go down another avenue to win the fight, or fail altogether. The in-law reasoning is that Gohdan was made to be defeated. He was never supposed to win the fight between him and Link, as the entire dungeon was a test to find the hero of the winds, and Link ends up passing, with Gohdan just returning to the wall after being defeated. But if Gohdan had those shades, there'd be no way to knock him down to bomb his mouth, and I just think that would be incredibly funny. But I respect this is the one entry in this list where this fatal flaw was actually designed for that purpose. We're jumping ahead to the Wii now as we look at Skyward Sword, which is actually the last game I played in the series. That's right, 2025 was the first time I ever got to try Skyward Sword on the Switch, and it continues the series' tradition of having a very big eye boss, this time being Tentalus, fought atop the sandship. This squid-like beast with the energy of a Monsters, Inc. character can only be defeated with the use of your bow. You need to cut down her tentacles and fire arrows into her giant rotund eye to stun her, and then allow your sword to do the rest. What's so egregious about Tentalus though is that she's a late game boss fight. You just took on Koa Noctus in the previous dungeon, one of the most complex fights in the game, so going from that to a diva with a giant eye is like going from A5 Japanese Wagyu beef to American dog food. And unlike the others who need Specsavers, she really needs a pair of goggles. One massive suction cup goggle from a local beachside store and she would be golden, because that eye is the only way to stun her, and without that weakness, she can damage Link with all her tentacles, and at best cause a stalemate, at worst, actually win. Since she lives underwater in her time period, those goggles would come in handy for swimming about, catching fish, destroying other ships that aren't related to the sand ship. She'd have so many options she wouldn't even need to attack us. Instead, because the giant thumb is convinced nothing can harm her, she gets into a fight she cannot win. If only she spent 10 rupees on a pair of children's goggles, she'd be enjoying her Link filet mignon instead. Lastly, we're stopping off in Breath of the Wild as I take a look at the subspecies of the Hinox. They're found in the overworld of Hyrule in different variations, red, blue, black, and stal, but they all work the same way in combat. They will have a weapon, which they'll use to try and attack Link. Some of the harder variants will wear armor, which they can use to protect vital body parts. Some of them are made of skeleton bones and can only be damaged via their eyes. And all of them have the ability to body Link depending on when in the game he tries to fight them. In fact, of all the bosses on this list, I'm certain the Hinoxes have the highest body count, and it's not even close. But their main weakness are those beady eyes atop their faces. When shot with any form of projectile, the Hinox will become stunned for a short time, allowing you to deal damage to them in any way you fancy. At half health though, they learn to block their eye with their hand. This forces Link into a waiting game as he stakes out the exact moment of weakness where the eye remains open, but the hand is moved away. This wouldn't be a problem if the Hinoxes just adopted a nice pair of specs. Alternatively, a helmet would also work, which would give them less room to worry about their weak spot and more room to focus on attacking Link. I'm not saying they would survive, as a souped-up Breath of the Wild Link, or a Tears of the Kingdom Link for that matter, can eviscerate a Hinox without even going for the eyes, but it would certainly give them more of a fighting chance. And that is why they, and all the other bosses on this list, should have gone to Specsavers. And that's my list. Do you guys think there are other bosses in the Zelda series who should have gone to Specsavers? Let me know down below, and if this video reaches 300 likes, I'll do a commenter edition, so be sure to leave those comments. I want to give a shout out to my YouTube channel members for supporting me for another month. It's $4.99. You get a shout out in the description and at the end of videos as well. You also gain access to my Dark Souls 3 and Dark Souls 2 Soul Level 1 Let's Plays, as well as my recorded playthrough of Hyrule Warriors Age of Imprisonment, because I want to get you Zelda fans in as well. So thanks so much for everyone who is helping the channel out. If you want to follow me, I have a Twitch, I have a Blue Sky, I have a Discord, and I stream weekly here on YouTube, so you have so many different ways to stay in contact. Thanks for watching, I'll see you next time, adios.